Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast, so unfortunately for you guys, you're stuck with me for the day. Yep, so this is just me on my own doing the Darkest Timeline, probably moaning and complaining about something, I'm sure. Probably bad drivers. So yeah, this is the Cookiecast, the Darkest Timeline podcast. Right then. Ooh, there's that old faithful sound of me sitting down with these old bones. Oh dear, right, podcast, let's do this. That seems to be creeping back into the podcast these days, the old phrase, the old podcast phrase. Hello, it's me, Cookie. And it's time for the Darkest Timeline podcast, which means that there's no video and no guests. Just little old me to entertain your earballs. Well, what a week. This is one of those things that I'll start by explaining something, then things will become clear as we go through the podcast. Ultimately, what I'm going to explain makes actually no difference. Today is Friday. I usually do this podcast on a Monday or a Tuesday. So that's the kind of week it's been. For various reasons, I've not been able to do the podcast until today. And those reasons will be covered in the podcast. Right, okay. So, the reason it doesn't matter is because this won't air for what is potentially months, and it's not like you guys are sitting and waiting for this podcast. Like, you know, you should have had it on Monday, and it's Friday and you're only just getting it. So that's kind of the reason it doesn't matter. Right, to the list. Sorry, I'm actually just adding something to the list, which I realised from an audio perspective, not great. I was gonna basically, another thing about this podcast is I wrote the list ready to do the podcast at the beginning of the week. I've written more stuff on the list at the end of the week to do the podcast now. So the beginning of the list and the end of the list and the beginning of the week and the end of the week are different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it as it's written, and then you'll see how the sort of week's gone. Interested? Might work, might not. I had intended to start with a thing about complaints. And I was going to talk about how if somebody complains in a restaurant that their meal wasn't very nice, how that might be dealt with. If somebody complained about some of the work I'd done, how the company I work for might deal with that. And then I was going to move on to like different people in different sectors doing different jobs, how the complaint around their work might be dealt with differently, and how people in certain sectors doing certain jobs might be slightly more protected than other people. Like my company, if the company I work for was like, somebody said he did a bad job, my company would lean towards the customer rather than towards me, whilst also going, well, you know, we trust our staff, but here's X. Whereas certain other organisations, some other organisations would lean towards their staff rather than the member of the public. Let's not say customer, the member of the public. So my intention was to go through this whole long, what would have been a diatribe about how, you know, if you work here, you're not protected. If you work here, you're very well protected. And that was something to do with something that has happened to me recently. That's quite a personal thing. But at this point in time, I've not dealt with it. I haven't actively dealt with that. So I don't think it's right to sort of talk about it until I feel I've dealt with it. Because the outcome might be different, and I don't know that, so I feel it's unfair. So I'd written something on the list. I was like, I'm going to talk about that, get it out and get it off my chest. But I don't think I'm ready to do that. I could have just not mentioned it. That would have been another way. So let's talk about car buying. So bear in mind, and as I've said, I wrote this list at the beginning of the week. So last Saturday, me and Ian, so before I go any further, I think it's one of those things, everybody has that friend. And Ian, if you're listening to this isn't in any way trying to belittle, I don't know. This is just explaining sort of some stuff. Everybody seems to, or from my opinion, everybody seems to have that friend who, quote unquote, knows cars. Me and Ian worked together many moons ago now. And we became very good friends off the back of working together. Ian departed the business that we worked in together, and we kept in touch and have done pretty much ever since. And we're talking, I mean, I started working there when I was 19, is it? So I think I sort of met Ian 20, so nearly 20 years ago is the short version. Wow, that doesn't make me feel old. Me and Ian have kept in touch. One of Ian's things, one of his many things, is cars. Ian knows cars. He has in the past built cars. He services his own cars. At one time, I seem to think had a reasonable collection of cars for various different reasons. So Ian, it's that Ian knows cars. Ian does cars. In any situation that I've personally been in, where I've had to buy a car or look at a car or have any involvement with cars, it's that text message to Ian, you free at this point in time to look at this car? And personally, from my perspective, I would never buy a car or even consider buying a car without having Ian look at it first. So that's that. My last car, my baby, Ian found it, let's put it that way, and I was very grateful for that, and that car was awesome. So yeah, never buy a car without talking to Ian or your version of Ian. So Saturday last week, I'm supposed to go and look at a car, big massive car. Ian, are you free? Yes, I'm free. Cool. I'll meet you there. We'll look at this car. Cool. And it was basically the standard looking at a car type of thing. Perfect weather for it. It was absolutely shitting it down. So, great car viewing weather. And one of the reasons that I ask Ian to come, and the reason that Ian comes is Ian will go over that car with a fine tooth comb and find anything that's wrong with it. I'm a bit more of if it looks alright, fine. So again, this is one of those situations that I'm not actually going to use any company names, but what I will say is this company weren't in my good books, because I think the fourth time I'd rung them and, I'll take your number and get back to you, and they hadn't. I went to view a car. So I get there, a few minutes later Ian gets there, we look at the car. And 2 hours later, we were like, car. Ian had found something that was potentially wrong in the engine bay. They looked like there was a bend which sort of coincided with a bump on the front, which looked like it had a prang. Luckily for us, there was a similar car. So we sort of did can we just have a look at that one? And when the guy walked away, popped the bonnet. It turned out that the same bend was in the car, so it was a manufacturer's thing. Car had a bit of a kick in. It was 3 years old, designed for transporting children, and you could tell. But things that they don't ever show you in pictures are things like the roof had clearly had a roof rack stroke roof box because it looked like it had been attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. These sorts of things. Ended up looking, like I say, we looked at the another car which was a smaller version of the one we were looking at, and I actually thought it was really nice. Had a lot of the same features as the big one, but for me it had a few too many miles. It was like 60,000 miles, which for me was a bit much for a 3-year-old car. Problem now is the time for the problem. Problem is, at this point in time, I have to go and speak to the guy and do the so how much kind of thing. He's asked me how much I want for my car, because I'm part X in my car. I told him what I'd been offered at various other places, multiple other places. And I went to have the conversation with him. I was like, right, okay, how much are you valuing mine at? And he came in £1,000 lower than everywhere else. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, yeah, that's the value I'm getting. I don't know where you've got all these other values from. That's the value I'm getting. And I'm like, oh, that's not a thing. So I'm like, right, okay. Bearing in mind that he has, in the process of all this, he has actually asked me if I wouldn't have preferred to have traded Leanne's car in. And my response to him was, why would I want to trade the other car in? It's brand new off the forecourt. Why the hell would I want to trade that against a 3-year-old people carrier? So, at the point he offers me £1,000 less than my car is worth, it dawns on me that problem being is I'm stood at a garage that is just nothing but Mercedes, BMWs, Audis, and cars like that, and I'm trying to get him to take my 3-year-old Vauxhall Astra. Short version is he didn't want the Astra, so he undervalued it, knowing that I wasn't going to accept that, and that was the end of that conversation. And I'm like, wow, way to be a dick about it. This ties into what I've said previously. I hate the car buying process. And the number one reason I hate the car buying process is because I have to deal with people like this. Because the majority of the people, apparently the majority of the people in the car trade are dicks. Why is that a thing? I mean, I've had good car sales experiences, and that goes a long way, believe me, a long way to selling me a car. You want to be a dick from the minute I walk through the door, guess what? You ain't getting my money. Just as an aside, at this point in time, that car I went to look at, that if he hadn't been a dick, I'd have probably bought there and then, still up for sale. So apparently nobody else wants it either. So I'm like, shit, and sorry about this. It's a done deal basically. Let's go. Look, I'll take you. I'll buy you a tea. Let's go. And we went off to Nero's, and I bitch moaned and complained about the situation. And Ian was sort of like, yeah, but it wasn't the best. Let's get out there and find something else. Why don't you look at the smaller one? Why don't you look at like a top of the, not top of the range, like a one with all the bells and whistles version of the smaller one? I was like, yeah, that's maybe not too bad a thing. And that was that. I came home. Leon's dad was here. Leon's cousin was here. Straight on the internet looking for cars. Leon's dad came and was like, oh, looking for cars? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, why don't you try this website? Hint, anybody looking for a car? There's a website called Car Guru, which I never found in all of my searches. Give them a try, because they rank cars on whether the car is a good deal or not. So that ties into something further down the line. So I was like, okay, I'll try this website, did a search for the sort of thing I was looking for, put in like the top model of that car. One on there was listed as a great deal. So I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. Sent Ian a message. I was like, hey, there's a car. It's out Wakefield way, which isn't far from where Ian lives. Fancy going to look at it. He was like, when? I was like, well, when can you go? He's like, Tuesday after work. Okay, let's go Tuesday after work. So that was kind of that. I'm a bit like, I'm going to have to, it's a ways off, going to have to drive, going to get there, don't know if it's going to be any, don't know if it's going to be any good. One thing I will say is, on like 2 or 3 websites, this car I looked at had a video of the car, like a walk around video, and 49 pictures. It was listed on that Car Guru website as a great deal because it was valued nearly £1,000 lower than it should have been. So I'm like, to me, this is a car that wants to sell. So, bearing in mind, like I said, nearly a week ago, I wrote a list for the podcast, and it was fucking car salesman, fucking cars, can't find a car, it's just fucking nightmare, I hate it. Tuesday night, drove over to Wakefield, went to see a car at a car garage. Now this is where things are different. So I'm going to do a shout out, and that's that. I'm going to shout out Mick from MDS Car Sales Limited in Wakefield. If you're looking for a car and you can get to Wakefield, go and see Mick, because, well, I'll tell you about how it went. So I've been talking to this guy Mick online through, I think it was like the Auto Trader app or something. So I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in looking at your car. He's like, cool. I'm like, oh, I live in York, but I'm prepared to come over on Tuesday. How's that? He's like, yeah, great. I was like, I'll try and get there for sort of 5, half 5. I see that you close at 6. He's like, you know, if you're here and you're coming from York, you know, we'll kind of stay open late for people and stuff. And I'm like, cool. I send a message, get a response straight away. This is the sort of service that I'm getting from sitting in York over the internet. Non-stop communication with Mick. So Tuesday comes around. I sent a message saying, Mick, can you do me a favour? If you sell the car before 4 o'clock, which is the sort of time I would have been setting off, can you just let me know so I know not to waste my time? Yep, no worries. Otherwise, I'll see you this evening. Perfect. Me and Ian meet at the place. I get stuck in traffic. I'm not sure if Ian was there long before me, but he was there before me, as is usually the way whenever we go anywhere. So we go to this place, and it's on like a mini industrial estate, and the car's parked outside. Looks nice from a distance and stuff. And I go into the office, meet the guy. He shook my hand straight away. Another thing that nobody has done up till this point of looking at cars and going to car garages. Nobody. Shook my hand straight away. I'm like, your points are going way up. Seemed like a nice guy. He was like, you come to look at the car? I was like, yeah. He's like, right, there's the keys. I'll see you in a bit. Cool. So rather than pestering, being on top of us, wanting to know what we're looking at, wanting to know what we think, at all times, he just left us to it. Another tick in another box for my man Mick at MDS. So we get out there, we get all the doors open, we get the boot open. I had to move it forward a foot to get the boot open. And Ian sets off on his journey with his fine-tooth comb. And again, probably in the region of a couple of hours looking over this car. Ian does not do things by halves. Honestly think he could set himself up doing this as a job and make a living out of it, because it's a service that is well worth its weight in gold, honestly. So Ian goes over it, finds a couple of things, but in my book they were minor things, especially for the fact that when I mentioned it to Mick, he's like, I get them sorted for you. Car was due its MOT, he's like, I get it MOT'd. So I'm like, you know, it's late, when can I test drive it? He's like, test drive it now. I was like, yeah, but it's late, you know, you've got to be getting home. He's like, you're here, why don't you just test drive it? Okay. Me, Mick, Ian, we jump in the car. I always get nervous at this point in time because I was working the principal. I'm going to prang it or bang it or whatever. So we went out, we had a drive around. He's like, do you want to take it on the motorway? Yeah, why not? He's like, let's go and pop some diesel in before we do that, which we did. And then again, we set off, we went out on the motorway, did like a circuit, came back. Car drove great, looked good to me. Like I say, few concerns from Ian that were addressed that we were told would get sorted. So I was like, right, okay, what are you going to value mine at? He had a very, very quick look at mine. Did, you know, the basic checks you need to do, I guess. He went away, he came back, and he sort of gave me the middle ground. I've had, as we know, some very low values on my car and some higher values. He went in at the middle, and I'm like, honestly, at this point in time, good service goes a long way, people. So I'm like, Mick, I'm happy with this. I'll give you my car as part exchange. I'll pay the difference. This is a done deal. So again, he filled in like an invoice. We shook hands, and I was like, when can it be ready? He's like, it needs its MOT. It needs those couple of bits of dressing that you've brought up. A couple of days. I was like, well, it's Tuesday today. I don't work Fridays. How about I come see you Friday morning? Perfect, I'll see you then. So that was that. Massive, like a world of difference, a complete world of difference. Buying a car from somebody like that compared to, for want of a better way of putting it, these slimy, horrible car salesmen that you have to deal with when you go most other places. So it's Friday today. I got up this morning, stripped my car of anything that wasn't necessary, you know, sweets that went out of date in February, a torch, things like that, car seats, rubbish. I filled a plastic bag of rubbish, which was nice. Jumped in the car. I had a bit of a petrol situation. I was nearly on to the red line, so I went and stuck a tenner in to drive to Wakefield. Drove off to Wakefield, got there, did all the stuff with Mick. Mick banged all the logbook stuff through on the internet, taxed the car there and then. Had an issue with transferring the money. My bank wouldn't let me do it, but Leanne's would. So I paid the man and took the keys. Again, we shook hands, and that was that. Jumped in the car. The one thing that I wanted to get done before setting off was setting up my phone so that I could have music on and stuff on the way back. Did that while I was sat outside. Drove away so it didn't look weird that I was just sat there. Went and found a petrol station, stuck some diesel in. Picked up the wrong diesel nozzle, so put the super duper diesel in the new car. The super duper diesel that costs, I imagine there's a reason why petrol and stuff, oil and stuff's called black gold, because my God, the money numbers were going up so much faster than the litres. Once it reached 50 quid, I was like, I'm gonna have to stop. Once it reached 55 quid, I was like, yeah, I'm stopping. Side note, wasn't even a full tank, so I won't be doing that again. So I'm sat at the petrol station, I paid for the diesel, put in the stuff on the sat nav, trying to get the sat nav sort of working and all that. Put into drive home, and it was like, oh, there's slow traffic, do you want a detour? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Pressed for the yes, and it was like, okay, it's going to be a minute longer. I was like, I'm sure that's fine. Apparently, what it meant was, you're off to York, we're in Wakefield. Let's go to Leeds. Honestly, not entirely sure what's happened there. But yeah, I went to Leeds. Anyway, eventually popped out on the A64, drove back to York. Really nice drive, really nice driving the car and stuff. Got back, picked Leanne up. And the little one went off, did some shopping so that they could have a go in the new car. And yeah, the new car is currently parked on the drive. So that was that. So from the start of the week of me going fucking car salesman to the end of the week, me going absolutely fantastic service. Again, Mick, MDS Car Sales Limited in Wakefield. Just, it's a world of difference when you get somebody like that in that trade. I've had it a couple of times before. And it just makes such a complete difference. Honestly, car salesmen are a thing of the past. Or that the ones that are just, they just care about the money and they just want money. I know it's a bit of a business like that, but really, there's just no need for it in this day and age, honestly. So yeah, from one extreme to the next, new car, I can scratch it off. I closed all of the internet tabs down that I had open that had car stuff on. It was so cleansing to do. So yeah. So that started last Saturday, kind of. It's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. But something happened on Saturday, then something happened on Tuesday, something happened today. Right, where do we go from here? So let's go in order. Wednesday. So Tuesday, I'm driving back from Wakefield to York. And on the way back, I'm like, oh man, my tooth's hurting again. So I think I mentioned before, I've had this really bad toothache. There was a problem with a filling, problem with a wisdom tooth. They were like, oh, your wisdom tooth might have to come out. Then they were like, oh, actually, it looks like it's the filling that's causing the problem. So we'll just do you a filling. She took my filling out, put a temporary one in, said come back in a week and we'll sort it out. Having taken the filling out, putting the temporary one in, I'm like, loads better. Other than I have this like little lump on the roof of my mouth, and if my tooth hurt or if I ate on that side of my mouth, the lump would get bigger. And I could tell it was a bit like it was filling with fluid. It wasn't like a massive, it wasn't like a golf ball. It was like, I don't know, like the tip of a pencil or something. Not huge, but you notice changes in it at different times. So, driving home on Tuesday from Wakefield, I was like, oh, my tooth hurts, that lump on the roof of my mouth's quite bad. Got home, had something to eat, and the lump on the roof of my mouth was big, and it was really painful. Luckily for me, I've got a dentist appointment at 9:30 Wednesday morning. And I was like, oh, well, you know, at least I won't be in too much pain. So I'm like, I'll just mention to the dentist about this lump, and I'm hoping the filling, that the replacement filling will sort that out. So, didn't do the podcast on Monday. Karen, why didn't I do it on Monday? There was a reason, which at this point in time I can't remember. I might have been coding a podcast. That might have been it. Tuesday, obviously couldn't do the podcast because I was out driving to and from Wakefield. Wednesday rolls round, I get up, log on, do a load of work, then go off to the dentist. Get to the dentist, almost straight in. Dentist's like, how you doing? I'm good, how are you? Good. How's the tooth? I was like, the tooth's perfect, the tooth's fine, tooth's great. Along the lines of, just give me a fill-in and let's get out of here. She was like, wonderful, that's brilliant, that's fantastic. I was like, yes it is. I was like, there is one small thing. I've got this like lump on the roof of my mouth, and sometimes it's bigger and sometimes it's smaller and sometimes it feels like it's filled up and it's like it's full of fluid sort of thing. She was like, oh, that sounds like a draining abscess. Obviously, as you can imagine, that sounds great. She's like, that'll be from your wisdom tooth and that'll be infection essentially. I'm like, okay. She's like, and there is only one way to deal with that, and that's to take the tooth out. At this point in time, my heart fell because, as I think I've previously explained, and this is one of those things, take from this what you will, you know, but I am who I am, so my teeth are kind of precious. That might sound weird or it might not sound weird, I don't know. My teeth are precious, and you know, they say you only get one set. You know, your teeth and your eyes, you've got to look after them. And I do. I brush my teeth. I look after them. And I always have. And yeah, you know, I've got this broken tooth, which the dentist doesn't seem to acknowledge. Anyway, that's a whole other story. And yeah, other than this pain and this wisdom tooth thing and this fill-in thing, my teeth generally don't bother me because I look after them. And because I'm, you know, and I'm not like, oh, I'm proud of my teeth, but I kind of am. And when someone says you're going to have a tooth taken out, an adult tooth, and yes, I know it's a wisdom tooth, and yes, I know it's got no purpose whatsoever, but I've got 4 wisdom teeth. So some of them still haven't fully come through. So I'm like, she's like, the tooth's going to have to come out. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. She's like, oh, there's like, you know, you can have a root canal done, but it's really difficult. They probably won't do it. They don't do it on the NHS, and it'll cost between £600 and £1,000. And I'm like, no. She's like, look, there's a couple of things we can do right now to have a look and find out, but it sounds like it's your wisdom tooth, and if it is, it's going to have to come out. She's like, lie back, I'm going to numb the area, I'm going to numb the thing on the roof of your mouth. I'm going to put this thing in it, and then I'm going to x-ray it and find the channel where it's coming from. But I can tell you now, it's more than likely your wisdom tooth. Right, okay, do that then. So in goes the injection, in goes the injection, in goes the injection, in goes the injection into the roof of the mouth. I'm like, Jesus. And then from what I can work out, she's put like I don't know, like an inch long plastic thing into the roof of my mouth. Stuck a thing in to take a x-ray. You know, it's that amusing thing where they leave you in the room and they all fuck off out of the room. Never concerns me, that one. Did an x-ray. Next thing she's like, yep, it's a draining abscess and it's coming from your wisdom tooth. It's going to have to come out. Or you can have a root canal for £1,000. What do you want to do? And then, by this point, I'd already sort of resigned myself to, I'm not going to pay £1,000 to sort a tooth out. And ultimately, they are redundant. You don't need them. So I'm like, with a heavy heart, I was like, you're going to have to take the tooth out. So yeah, she got set up for removing the tooth. She put like something between the back tooth and the wisdom tooth and wiggled it around, and it seemed to sort of like make a gap. Then she got what I presume was some kind of pair of pliers, got clamped onto it and just started wiggling it basically. And so it began, ladies and gentlemen. I kid you not. This is no word of a lie. I think it took about 15 minutes. They kept asking me if I was okay, and a couple of times I nearly said to the dentist, I'm alright, because I'm numbed up to anything. I'm like, I'm alright. Are you okay? Because she looked like she was going to pass out. They had to open the windows because it was getting warm in there. She just could not get that tooth to come out. And she was giving it a bloody good go. In hindsight, if they'd have said, do you want us to do it this way? Or we can take you to the window and have a horse kick you in the mouth. It's the same effect. I'd have taken the horse. Because, my God, the damage she did to my bottom lip, pulling on the pliers that were resting on my bottom lip. I basically ended up with a fat lip. Anyway, 15 minutes later, she managed to get the tooth out. And I had a, she kind of showed it to me. I had a look and I was like, wow, that's what a tooth looks like. And they're massive. So, keep in mind, this is Wednesday at what's this point about 10, half 10. Tooth comes out. She's like, she sticks a load of gauze in, sends me on my way. She's like, a few things. One, it's going to hurt. You're going to need painkillers. Well, I don't take painkillers. Anybody who knows me knows why that is. Anybody who doesn't know me, I don't do painkillers. It's just a thing. I don't take them. So I'm like, screw your painkillers. She's like, it's going to hurt for days and days and days, 3 or 4 days. It's going to hurt. You can't eat, and you can't eat these sorts of things. You can't drink these sorts of things. You can't smoke. You can't do any of this, that, and the other for the next 48 to 72 hours. I wasn't really paying much attention to that because I'm just like in some kind of state of shock because I've had, my precious tooth taken out. She sends me out of the room with a load of stuff. Here's some extra gauze. If it does this, stick the gauze in, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, cool. I went to see the receptionist. They sorted me out, booked me in for 6 months' time. And on my merry way, I went out the door. Back to the car, in the car. Texting Leon, they took my tooth away. They took my tooth. Drove home. Now, I told work, hey, if I get a fill-in, I'll be in once I've come home and picked up my laptop. If they take my wisdom tooth out, I will not be coming in because I imagined I'd be in a bit of discomfort. I get home. I come up, I start like getting logged back on to do some work. I'm like, I've got gauze in my mouth and all this. And then I can slowly feel the numbing stuff, the injection, starting to wear off. And as the injection wears off, there's a little bit of pain. I'm like, oh, that hurts. It seems to hurt quite quickly, and injection seems to be wearing off, and it hurts. It hurts quite a bit actually. Yeah, that's really starting to hurt, and it's moving up from where the wisdom tooth is into like my cheek, and then the pain moved into my eye. Like the back of my eye and into my forehead. And at this point, the pain reached a whole other level. So I'm like, oh, that hurts. Oh, ow, 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 ow. And then I was in agony. And I'm sure you know people that there are, there's those different types of pain that you think back to times when you have been in excruciating pain. This one goes on the list because not long after that, I was, and I'm not ashamed to say, I was crying with pain and screaming, and I was in agony. Right side of my face was pain like I've never felt, and it wouldn't stop and it wouldn't go away, and it was just relentless. So I'm screaming. Leon's in the shower. Eventually she comes out of the bathroom. What the hell's going on? I'm screaming in pain. And the next half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour just features me backwards and forwards in and out of the bathroom, spitting blood into the sink, screaming and crying, and just honestly, not knowing what to do, I'm like, do I need to phone the dentist and tell them that I'm in excruciating pain? All of this. Do I need to, it was like, do I need to go to the hospital? Is something wrong? Is this what it should be like? What the fuck? In the end, I actually caved and I went and took paracetamol. So I'm like, a couple of paracetamol. And the pain sort of subsided. I sent Sam a message at work saying, look, I'm in absolute agony. I'm going to have to go and lie down. As it was, I couldn't really do much from lying down, but the painkillers obviously started kicking in as time went on. I imagine, working on the principle that I don't take them, they probably have a better effect on me at this point in time. So yeah, pain like I've never experienced. So that was that. Wisdom tooth out, a lot of pain. The first day was a bit of a write-off. Did a podcast with Paul and James. I sort of managed to get myself round a bit. I had some more painkillers. I'd like drunk some water. Leanne told me I probably needed a mint because it smelled like something had crawled into my mouth and died, which was nice to hear. So yeah, that was Wednesday. The last thing that I'd had to eat at that point was my tea Tuesday night when I got back from Wakefield. And at this point in time, which is Friday evening, it's currently 9 o'clock, that is still the last thing I had to eat. Again, another one of those weird things, can't really explain it. I just can't bring myself to eat anything. I'm sure it's great for the figure. The most I've been able to sort of bring myself to do is I've had a couple of like chocolate milkshakes, kind of working on the principle, hey, they're really high calorie, but at the same time, they're the only calories that are going in my body. I've been drinking water and like the flavoured water that I drink at home. Today I managed to sort of broach having a coffee, but I let it cool right down to it was practically cold. And I had like a frosty coffee thingy as well. So I did all that. But yeah, at this point in time, still haven't had anything to eat. I just can't bring myself to eat anything. I wouldn't. It's like the mechanics of eating have gone from my head. Not taking as many painkillers. I think I've only had 2 painkillers today, so that's obviously a good sign. I'm very aware of this void at the back of my mouth at the top. So yeah, I don't know at which point I might end up eating something. Like I say, at the moment, it's just very much it's like a foreign concept to me right now. But I've been drinking like the odd smoothie here and there, and like I say, the chocolate milk helps. It's amazing how little I'm actually hungry. I've probably got a lot to burn off, so So that was Wednesday. Right, back to the list. Can we get to the fun stuff yet? Jesus. Right, I've jumped around. This wasn't how I had intended to do this, but I've jumped around. Yeah, I think we can do the good stuff. Oh, actually, no, I've missed something out. I was gonna. No, that's not true. I've missed something out, but I was gonna do it towards the back end. Let's talk some good stuff. Let's talk TV. Let's do TVs and games and all the good stuff. I haven't watched any movies for a little while. Although I bought a film today because it was £4 on Amazon and it had been in my basket for ages. So yeah, I did that. But it's not a film it's a film I've seen many times before, so it's not like it's a new film or anything like that. Did see that How to Train Your Dragon 3 is out to buy. Not ashamed to say. Looking forward to watching that. But haven't bought it. So TV, Good Omens. I attempted to read Good Omens, the book, years and years ago. An old boss of mine lent me the book, and ashamedly, I never gave it back. I feel really bad about that. It's something that still comes back to me every now and then. Never gave that book back. Recently, I got quite into reading, so I wanted to sort of read like classic books of our generation, and I wanted to read some new stuff. So I read like American Gods, which I've enjoyed. Watched series 1 and series 2, but I haven't read the book. That's kind of cool. Norse mythology, read that, and I got Good Omens because everybody told me it was good, and it is. Mostly, it's good. I have issues with the end of that book, but generally, it's good. I was super excited about the fact that they were doing a TV show. Didn't know how they were going to do it because I was like, oh, you know, they just want to make money off stuff like this, so they'll drag it out for, you know, they'll do 9 series and 90 episodes and all this, that, and the other. Strangely enough, they actually went the other way. It's 1 series and it's 6 episodes. Perfect. Exactly how it should have been. My review is, generally overall, it was really good. It was really enjoyable to watch. It's a lot of fun. Having read the book, I feel that they played down the kids that are in it, for the fact that David Tennant and is it Martin Sheen, Michael Sheen, the guy, the angel and the demon in it, the guys that do that, they're great, and their chemistry is really good, and I imagine that's something they wanted to play to their strengths. But I did feel that some of the story was lost for the fact that they didn't really spend much time on the kids, because the kids are the main characters. Certainly the kid that's the Antichrist is like the main character in the book. And then the angel and the demon are sort of like the next characters. So they've kind of flipped that on its head. End of the day, it's 6 episodes. The perfect length for something like that. I think they're the sort of the 50-minute kind of area. Lots of well-known famous people in it. John Hamm's in it. Just randomly one actor's name that I threw out there. But yeah, really good, super enjoyable, lots of fun. Which again, like the gaming world, TV seems to be missing fun these days. It's on Amazon Prime, so if you've got Amazon Prime, it's there. I would certainly recommend it. Score-wise, 8 out of 10. If that's something you need, definitely give it a whirl. Around about the time I was getting to the end of Good Omens, Lan told me that the new series of Happy Series 2 was available on Netflix. Cool, awesome, good fun. Last night I put the first episode on. If I'm honest, I'm not sure that did I see the end of that? No, I did. Part of me thought I'd fallen asleep, but no, I did watch. I did watch all of that. Already, it feels like it's lacking something. I watched the TV series of Shooter, and I watched the first series, and that was really good. I really enjoyed that. I've never seen the film, but I really enjoyed that series. But it definitely only needed 1 series. And then they did another series, and I watched the first couple of episodes, and I was like, this doesn't need to be a thing. You should have done 1 series and left it alone. I'm hoping that that's not the case for this second series of Happy, because I really enjoyed the first series. But it did feel a little bit like, is there something missing from this? I don't know. I'll continue to watch it, and I'll unless it gets really, unless it's not good, but I will go back and watch more episodes of that. So that's the TV. Like I say, no films this week, but we're supposed to be doing Moviecast at some point. So in theory, movie watching should go up. Right, let's talk games. Games. The Division 2, which I did my review on. I was still playing. There was 2 strongholds. The first one I did was level 28. That was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed that. It was a nice, healthy challenge. Super enjoyable. Got through it on my first go. Cool. Did the second stronghold that was also level 28. And as a character that's level 30, you're a bit like, here, let's do this. That was not as much fun. It was really hard and I died a lot. And when you died, it sent you really far back. It was super annoying. So that sort of was putting me off. I was kind of like, I'm glad I'm getting to the end of this game. Finished that stronghold, which unlocked another stronghold, which was level 30. And I said, I'm good, thanks. The second stronghold that was level 28 really took it out of me. And I wanted to be finished. And then when I wasn't, I was like, oh, geez, really? I intend to go back to it, but I don't know when that might be. Tim at work got Wildlands. Ghost Recon Wildlands. Never played it before, which I was like, wow, to get to this point in time, I've never played it. So we've been playing as a group. Me, JK and Tim have been playing as like a 3-man team. That's been fun. Only like a couple of hours here or there sort of thing. And then me and JK were sort of playing a bit more. Just me and him, trying to do some of the additional missions that I hadn't done. I managed to break my game. So there's like this thing called the Oracle mission. I can't do it because my game thinks I'm halfway through it and has locked the door to get into it. So I'm a bit annoyed about that. But it did remind me that I hadn't finished the second DLC. One of the only times I've ever bought a DLC for a game. So I was like, do you know something? I might give that a whirl again. So I've been playing that recently. It's hard. It's probably harder than the actual game and the other DLC. But it's one of those, it's quite challenging, so it's quite rewarding sort of thing. Haven't managed to get all of the upgrades. Really struggling to get the upgrades on this one. But I've got a drone that will now shoot people. And I've just upgraded that, so it'll have like it'll shoot 3 times. So that's really cool. That's really useful. So yeah, really enjoying playing the DLC for Wildlands. Which brings me to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. But first, drink break. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Ghost Recon Breakpoint. JK and Tim had a go on the alpha. I don't want to get too much into this, but the short version is it doesn't sound good. It certainly doesn't sound good for me personally. There's a lot of... It's just money. It's just money, 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 money. How do we make money off this? Which obviously Wildlands didn't massively have. It sounds like Breakpoint really does have that. A lot of complaints about it from the community, which obviously have been ignored. I think they're just going to release it as it is to... Well, I've said if what it sounds like now is the game they release, I probably won't get it because it doesn't have anything in for me. And this is a man who's still playing Wildlands, 3 years or however many years it is after that game's been released. Yeah, Breakpoint doesn't sound good, and they're going to have to do a lot to it to make it better, and I don't think they're going to do that. But watch this space. I've signed up for the beta. I've had no confirmation about the beta, but we'll see. I might get a go on it, so see whether I want to buy it or not. It comes out in October, I think, so there's still time to find out. This week's been E3. Very, very lukewarm E3 from my perspective. very few games that actually look like they're of any interest. Pretty sure Microsoft have announced another Xbox, another thing nobody needs. And Sony didn't actually attend, so that tells you all you need to know about that. There's a load of games that have been mentioned. Only a few of them look mildly interesting. The rest, it's like, I'm good, thanks. So yeah, another sign of where the games market is these days. The E3 sort of seemed to suck this year. And yeah, one of the things that seems to have come out of it is they're definitely moving into this putting actors in games, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's just like, oh, we're doing this, are we? I'm sure that's going to be great. But hey, we'll see. Maybe it's a good thing. Who knows? Right. So jumping back to Sunday. Sunday was the last day of filming for the Zomblog movie. So I was up at the ridiculously early hour of, I think I was up at like 6:15 or something. Get up, get showered and get ready. I went to pick Miles and Hannah and Lindsay up. We drove to Thirst because we were filming in the cinema. So we did that. Another day on another film set. It's a lot of fun, but it's a full day, and I got made up as a zombie, zombie makeup and stuff. Got to see people that obviously I've worked with on the other shoots and stuff. So it was almost like a family reunion. It was nice. So yeah, that's the end of all of that. And from the updates I've seen, there's a lot going on getting that movie finished and ready for later this year. So cool. It was a good time. I've been sent some pictures and stuff, which I'll speak to Miles and see if I can post on this podcast. So if that's a yes, look for that on the YouTube feed for the pictures. I think it's like the new poster and stuff. So that's that. So coming up next week, Tuesday of next week is a big day because it's Metallica. Yeah, boy. Metallica are playing the Etihad, or as Paul would say, the Empty-Had Stadium. So me and my boy Luke are going to jump in the car. We're going to drive over to Manchester, early doors, get there nice and early. Going to have a mooch, get something sweet, if I'm eating solids by that point in time. I believe the intention is to record a podcast on the way there, then go and do all our stuff in Manchester, then go to the gig and potentially record a podcast on the way back. I have bought a portable digital recorder to do just that, so we're going to give that a test drive. Hopefully that's going to pick up all the sound we need. Me and Luke have got a long history of Metallica stuff. So hopefully we can cover that, certainly there and back. We'll do a review of the gig and stuff like that. So yeah, looking forward to that. That's going to be cool. As has been mentioned previously, I had tickets to see them the last time they were in Manchester, and was unable to go. Was very sad about that. So I kind of feel like this is a do-over. So I'm going to have to enjoy it twice as much. So yeah, look out for Metallica podcast in the future coming your way from Cookiecast. So yeah, that's kind of it for this week. Busy. Lots of ups and downs in the week. This will be the Wisdom Tooth Memorial episode of the podcast. A few things. Want to say a big shout out to Ian. Obviously, I've thanked him already. I'm going to get him a little something for all of his help. But again, huge shout out to Ian. I've already said to him that I couldn't do the car stuff without him, and I always appreciate all of his help and all of his efforts. In 2 separate occasions of going to look at cars in the last week, Ian's probably spent about 4 hours looking at cars for me. So, that's a massive thing, taking time out of his day and stuff. So, big thank you to Ian. I'm super sad to see my tooth go. They didn't even, offer to let me keep it or anything. I don't know why that would be. I'm sad to see the Astra go. That is hands down my favourite car that I've driven. It was such fun to drive. Lovely car. It was like a sexy little beast. I just loved that car. I loved it, and it had a 1 litre engine with a turbo strapped on. So it went like absolute anything, but got great mileage. And I loved it, and it served me well, and I was sad to see it go. Obviously, like I've been saying to people, you kind of have to grow up sometimes for certain reasons, and for want of a better way of putting it, just needed a bigger car. So that's what had to happen. The Astra had to go, and I said my goodbye to it, and it went. But now there's a new car, so there's that. And yeah, there was zombieing on Sunday. That was super cool. Looking forward to that. There was car viewing. There was dentist issues. There was getting the car. And yeah, so that's that. One thing I do want to sort of say as I close this podcast out is I'd kind of been keeping track of the numbers, and I was sort of a bit apprehensive of doing my own podcast. And as you'll have heard by now, I was worried about putting pictures up on the podcast in case somebody wanted to sue me for the picture. I was worried that nobody would listen. I was worried that I wouldn't have anything to talk about. I wouldn't have any content, so on and so forth. I looked at the numbers for the podcast, this particular podcast the other day, and it was like, okay, it's average. It's got average numbers, little numbers, average numbers. That's that. And then I didn't look for a couple of days. And then I had a look just to see. I like to keep an eye on what the numbers do. And the numbers for this podcast had quadrupled in like 2 days. And I was blown away. I was a bit like, oh my God, people have listened. And that's like a huge thing for me. Because, like I said, I wasn't sure if anybody would want to listen. So my final shout out is to anybody that's listening. Thank you very much. You made me super happy when I saw that there was people listening. And it's one of those, I'll keep doing it if you keep listening sort of thing. So yeah, there we go. That is the end of the podcast for this week. Thank you for joining me. Do join me again for more ranting about stuff. Less of the car buying. So, that's something you don't have to listen to anymore. So, yeah, I'll say goodbye there, and I'll see you next time. Bye! So there you go. What do you think of that? Another one in the bag. Another week gone. Another week closer to, well, whatever it is that you're looking forward to. YouTube watchers, turn into YouTube subscribers, drop us comments, likes, things like that. Everybody jump over to thecookiecast.com, check out the website, check out the social media stuff, send us social media love, drop us an email, tell us when you're going to come on the podcast. We'll get you booked in and we'll let you know when we're available to have you on. So, yep, there we go, another one done. And until next time, I'm going to say bye.